So the process is like everyone has a different idea of turnkey, right? You've talked to a wholesaler, say, hey, this is a turnkey rental.
Oh, they have the wildest interpretation of what turnkey is.
It needs nothing. It needs nothing except you're missing the whole floor.
Yeah, so there's no roof. Yeah.
It's like a sunroof, okay?
Welcome back to Cashed In. Today is episode 27. We have a special sponsor. Universal Settlement Solutions is a title company as well as a law firm. I myself have used them countless times, always recommending. Michael has used them as well. If you're looking for a title company doing a closing, quiet title action, I would recommend Universal Settlement Solutions. But more importantly, we have a special guest today, an investor, a flipper, and a guy from Ohio. His name is Steve Yoak. Steve, welcome.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here, Steve.
He's also a real estate agent. I just learned that as well.
Yep.
So I also learned, I just met Steve maybe 45 seconds ago, and I learned that he spent almost $800,000 at Lowe's.
Home Depot.
Home Depot. Okay, I didn't learn that much, but how did that happen?
I was just doing a lot of flips, a lot of remodels on the interior stuff, and Home Depot has great service. You know, they do deliveries for me because once you have a certain spend amount, they put you into a different category for, you know, doing deliveries to your house and use a lockbox and stuff like that. So it makes it really easy. You don't have to have someone at the site.
Oh, so you're like platinum member at Home Depot.
Yeah, it'd be like a gold member or whatever you want to call it.
I mean, yeah, to spend, how would you go higher than gold? I mean, you'd spend like $3 million?
I would have no idea.
Yeah.
That could be a divisive debate, actually. Lowe's versus Home Depot.
Yeah,
People will tend to use one or another.
Yeah,
You know,
it's never both.
Yeah, it's never both.
Did you pick Home Depot because of the proximity to where you live, or?
Yeah, there's just a ton of Home Depots in like the Akron area, so that's kind of why we chose Home Depot.
Okay, so there's a reason you almost spent $1 million at Home Depot, and that's because you work on a lot of houses.
Yeah, so a lot of flips, a lot of renovations. We'll probably pass 60, 70 homes this year in flips. More like rental grade, so we sell them as like turnkey investments. So if anyone's looking for a turnkey investment in the Akron area, I got plenty of inventory.
Okay, so a turnkey property that that person would purchase and then rent out, you're saying?
Yeah, so we
I mean, they could do both. They could live in it, but
they could live in it, but mainly we end up selling them as like turnkey rentals.
Interesting. Okay, and how many years have you been doing this?
In the real estate space, I've been buying houses for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Turnkey space or rent ready. I bought my first one about 8 years ago, and then I started doing them a couple of years ago.
Okay. So there's a lot to break down with that. I want to know your process and then how the different interest rates might affect your buyers. I don't know which one you're going to start with first.
So the process is like everyone has a different idea of turnkey, right? You've talked to a wholesaler, say, hey, this is a turnkey rental.
Oh, they have the wildest interpretation of what turnkey is.
It needs nothing. It needs nothing except you're missing the whole floor.
Yeah, so there's no roof. Yeah.
It's like a sunroof, okay?
Yeah. Plexiglass.
Yeah, there we go. So turnkey, we make sure that all the major mechanicals or your CapEx items have 10 years of life plus.
What's CapEx?
Like big items. So like if you're talking like a roof, a furnace, a hot water tank, we always put new kitchens in, new baths in, new floors.
Got it.
Paint, lights, switches, outlets. All that stuff always gets covered, but we always make sure the big things have 10 years of life plus.
Got it.
So if the furnace is older than 10 years old, we put in a new one.
Sure.
That kind of makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then how has that affected the interest rates? Does that affect your buyers at all? Has it slowed down for you?
I mean, obviously everyone gets scared when there's an interest rate hike. So there's a week or two where everyone's like, oh, interest rate's way too much. But I'm like, do the numbers still make sense? Maybe the prices are a little bit lower because the interest rates are higher, so they can still make those same returns. You're looking at 20% ROI or, somewhere.
So that's your threshold or your foundation?
We try to.
It's 20%.
We try to get to that, yeah.
What's the time frame from start to finish?
60 to 120 days.
Meaning a close day.
Yeah,
purchase day, close to close.
Unless we're
days.
doing, larger renovations that, like Dominion has to come in and put in a new gas line and stuff like that. But a typical one, 60 to 120 days.
Are you your own agent when you buy and sell?
Yeah, so usually I represent myself when I buy and sell stuff.
That makes it simple.
I've even done, if I was tired of doing paperwork, I was like, hey, do you want to take both commissions and do the paperwork, and can we have a lower price?
Yeah.
Oh, I've got to get my Ohio license.
Yeah, there you go. I always do. That's usually my escape route on doing paperwork.
Yeah. So how do you two know each other?
So that's what I was going to say. So we actually played college football together at West Virginia Wesleyan.
Okay.
In the sticks of West Virginia. Steve
So then
loved,
he knows
he loved it
Justin.
there.
Yeah.
He almost moved down there full time.
Oh, wow. Wow.
It was a little bit desolate for my likings, coming from like Akron, a populated area. I wasn't quite attuned to going to Sheets and hanging out for the evening. That was not a Saturday night.
Oh, wow.
Or Hardee's.
Riveting.
Sorry, forgot about that.
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
So I'm intrigued, and we've talked a little bit, right? I followed you on Facebook. I know you're not really big on social media, but I think that you should post more because I think you have a lot to offer, which is why I wanted you on here. I think that so just tell me about we were talking a little bit before. What intrigued you about real estate? And you ended up working full time. Kind of give me the rundown of your.
I'll kind of talk about how I got started
yeah.
and stuff. So I think I was like 14 years old, and like I had some of my buddies' dads had like rental properties, and I was like, all right, great. I'll come help you clean them, get them ready. So, we're in there taking all this crap out of the house that tenants leave, Some of them were pretty nasty units, I saw my first like eviction put out when I was like 15 or 16.
Okay.
The sheriff came, put them out,
Yeah.
and I was there taking all their stuff out.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is crazy.
In real time, you're watching somebody be escorted, and you're just like with a garbage bag.
Taking their
And
stuff
that was it.
out.
He was like, I'm going to be an investor.
Yeah. Dream life.
job, yeah. So we did that. We were putting in, I'd learned how to do some roofing, siding, windows. We were doing everything. I was like, sure, why not? I was getting paid like probably $10 an hour, and I thought I was like making
Back
a ton of
then,
money.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, this is great. So I did that off and on through high school, into college. I would just bust my butt, and people would be like, "Wow, you're a great worker." So of course you'd hire them for cash on the spot, right?
Sure. Right.
So I did that, and then I started getting like 20 years old, middle of college. I started looking at properties online I wanted to buy. I was convinced I was going to buy a duplex, live in half of it, and rent the other half out, rent some rooms out to buddies. That was like my goal from like age 20. So I think when I was like 22, just turned 23 maybe, I bought my first duplex in Lakewood, Ohio. Moved in the next day. Me and my buddies hung out, like slept on the floor, living it up in Lakewood, Ohio.
Yeah.
So I had a tenant already downstairs. He was a general contractor by trade, so that was really cool.
That's nice.
Gave me a lot of advice, let me use his tools sometimes when I needed stuff. And then moved in a friend into the one bedroom there. And then I renovated the attic at that house, did everything. And I would hire people to work with me as long as I could work with them.
Yeah.
I was like,
So you could learn? Or?
yeah, so I could learn. Like, I didn't know how to rewire stuff. So I was like, all right, listen, like, if I hire you, like, we're going to work together. You got to do it when I get off work, or you got to do it on the weekends.
You're like buying an education.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's kind of smart. I mean, for a 20-year-old, that's pretty.
Yeah, I was all about it. I mean, I learned how to install Windows. I did all those, like, things that, you don't always get to do all the time. And I was like, all right, well, how do you metal wrap them? How do you do this? And, lo and behold, 10 plus years later, I opened a roofing, siding, windows company. But we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's Renew
There's
Home?
many layers.
Yeah, Renew
to
Home
you.
Exteriors, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Cool.
So we do retail, roofing, siding, windows. We also do stuff for investors. So like any of your big retail clients or businesses would be similar to. But yeah, going back to the house hacking, like that was when I learned probably the most, right? Because you're doing it on your own property. You're not just the helper, you're the main person, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
you learn all those little like unique things of, undercutting the door jamb and all that stuff when you're putting in the LTV, and just the difference between a cheap plumbing fixture and a nice one, So about the plastic parts on the inside compared to the metal parts, So I learned a lot on that, and then I bought a second duplex, did the same thing to it, moved in FHA, so 3.5% down.
So you had to refinance out of the first one, right?
I did. I
Okay.
refinanced.
Did you take equity out of it, or you just
I didn't.
Okay.
I was working as a full-time teacher at the time. I was coaching.
Okay.
I was coaching basketball, football, and track, all middle school sports. So I was done by 5 o'clock, so I could work on the house after
Okay.
5.
So you're working full time.
Yeah. So I have
Okay.
my degree in middle school education, math, and science.
Okay.
So I was working full time, doing the house hack, refinanced the one, moved to the other one. Started renovating that one just like I did before. In the middle of renovating that, I bought my first turnkey property. So I bought it, and someone moved in the next day. It was extremely nice. I felt like I got top dollar for the rent at the time. You know,
The one in Lake, is that the one in Lakewood you were talking about?
I got the 2 duplexes were in Lakewood, Ohio, and then I bought one in Maple Heights, right
Okay.
outside. It's like a suburb of Cleveland.
Okay.
So I bought that. So I was cash flowing these properties, teaching full time. Got my master's degree in principalship because I was like, I want to be an AD at some point, I thought.
Yeah.
And then kept buying more rental properties and flips, and eventually, me and my wife had our first child, and I decided I had to pick between the 3 of them, right? I had to have the kid, the real estate, or teaching, so I got rid of teaching.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the process to how we got there, and each year kept adding more to the portfolio, trying to do more flips.
So early on, how were you funding the deals?
Oh yeah, so like the FHA loans, like the houses for like 75 or 100 grand, so I'd save up 3 or 4 grand, no big deal. The first couple flips went to a hard money lender.
Okay.
We're paying 15%, 6 points, because I had 0 experience in flips.
Yeah, right.
Ooh.
No one wanted to touch me.
Right. Yeah.
So it was one of those tough lessons to learn. You finally have to pay it to get the money, right? Because they gave you full purchase, and they gave me rehab funds up to 60% of ARV. So I was like,
You got to buy access sometimes.
yeah. So once you do a few flips, I go to some of your larger ones, like Fund That Flip. I know is big in Pittsburgh. I use them a lot. There's Lending Home, Aloha Capital. There's 1,000 of them that are similar to that, as long as you're willing to put some money down.
Yeah.
And get the draws. I do use other people's money as well, like private people, like they have an IRA that's self-directed, or maybe they just have cash in the bank. So, I do that as well. So we have a variety of things that I do with that. I even lend now myself.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So I've done some lending as well. Rolled over my teacher retirement, plus I have some other funds, and
Okay.
yeah. So nothing.
How's that work with your teacher retirement? Is that like the self-directed IRA? Is that similar to that?
So I rolled it over into like a self-directed IRA.
Okay.
That's what we did. With that money, and then
You charge 15%.
I do.
Nice. So full circle.
I do charge 15% because they're smaller loan amounts.
Yeah.
So,
So what's the time frame on that? Because I'm curious about like private lending.
what do you mean time?
So
frame?
do you give, when someone borrows from you, you're like, you need to flip this and close this. I want my money back in a year.
Yeah, most people want 12 months. I always try to stay more on that 6 to 9 month. Obviously, I ask the person, like, how long do you need? Like,
yeah.
what are your plans with it? What are your exit strategies? Like, plural, right?
Mm.
Because if it's a flip and it doesn't sell, like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Right.
Do you get a lien position on it?
Yeah, so you get
Okay.
a personal guarantee, and you get first lien on the properties, and I don't allow second liens on my paperwork.
Right.
I just put no second liens. And you got to make sure it's filed so that if someone does try to put a second lien on it,
They can't.
Yeah. So that's kind of the
Did you ever
big
have
deal.
to foreclose yet on someone?
I haven't. I've not.
That's what I was just gonna ask. What happens if things go bad? Do you
Well-
need to take over? Well, that's where that lien comes into place, right?
Right. So
You
you
get-
Yeah.
you have
So you get to foreclose, take the property back, take the
Right.
ownership.
And you got to be protective of your money. So, like, yeah, I might buy the property, but I'm not going to give them a draw until they've done work, right?
Right,
Okay.
right.
You got to make sure that they're always a little bit ahead of you. You don't want to be, I'm not going to hand you 80 grand when it's a 50K purchase and a 30K rehab. I would be
Correct.
upside down immediately.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could go down to the bar and have a good time. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
You got to be careful on that. So that's my process. Do it in draws.
Okay.
Make sure that you've completed work before you get any money,
Mm.
which can be tough because if you don't have those funds to start,
Right.
you might not be the right candidate. And I also do credit checks, a background check, and then ask for bank statements.
Okay.
Because if you don't have anything in the account, how are you ever going to get to a draw
Right.
without not being able to pay your contractor?
Yeah, right. Right.
Yeah.
And that gets sticky too, because then they're filing mechanics liens.
Yeah. And then it's a legal process and it's just.
Yeah, trying to stay away from that.
Right. So I'm assuming it's people you know.
Yeah, I mean, doing so much real estate, you run into so many people in the area. Never lent to anyone outside of the Akron area, just because it's easy to see the project.
Yeah.
If I want to go check in on it, I always like to see it before I lend on it.
Sure. I mean, that would
Yeah,
make sense.
it's-
That's how a regular bank does it with an appraiser.
Right. I'm
So-
not doing hundreds of deals. I'm doing a couple.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah. So I mean, it's been cool to see it full circle and see the process through, and
So obviously, I guess naturally, you creating your own, what is it?
it's a roofing, siding, windows company, Renew Home Exteriors,
And they do all of your projects that you flip.
Yeah, so they do all the exterior work, and we have crews that do roofing, siding, windows, and I've crews that do interior work.
I always hear that it's so hard to find contractors. Like who doesn't have
good,
like a,
maybe good contractors.
like good
Good
licensed,
contract.
insured ones. So how did you
Yeah.
find crews like of people?
So I guess I went through after I did my first couple houses, I partnered with some people on some projects, and the more I saw how subs are treated, or when you hire a contractor, how they're treated, I was like, I understand why they hate working for people. I understand.
I
So
see.
I try to take the approach. I always say thank you. I always just try to treat them
like
a
humans,
friend.
like
Yeah.
You wanna be
respectful,
treated- yeah, right.
respectful.
it's
Yeah.
just like, and it's easy to have that conversation when you're like, hey, you see here, like I was kind of hoping that you could kind of touch this up, and this needs fixed, and I think you forgot this, and having a hard scope of work and being like, hey, we had this on the scope. I think you might have overlooked it. I know there's a lot here.
Mhm.
Not being like blank, blank, blank. You need a blank, blank, blank. That's never going to end well.
Yeah.
No.
It's never going to
Rather
end
than
well.
being demanding, you're more of like a respectful approach, which is
Yeah.
common sense, but some people forget that when dealing with people they hire sometimes.
Yeah, because I feel like if anytime I've ever been yelled at in a situation where I was working for someone,
Mhm.
it didn't make me want to do more work for them.
Yeah, or
Right.
better,
Right.
or right. Yeah. You're like,
Would
let me
make me
just
wanna-
get out of this situation.
Yeah, you want to remove yourself from the situation. So I've always just tried to say, hey, thank you, nice job. You guys are really working hard. Whatever it is, just something, bring lunch to the job site,
Yeah.
right? I mean, what's a couple dollar cheeseburgers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It means everything to them, but
Yeah.
it's $5.
Yeah.
And you got 5 cheeseburgers, drop them off, and just say, hey, just passing through, checking it out, then just keep moving.
Yeah. No.
It's kind of I've tried to take that approach to working with so many different individuals from different backgrounds, different situations, different life experiences, and just try to build a positive reputation.
Oh, totally.
That's, I feel like any of the contractors I've ever had would say that, hey, Steve pays you, and if you do what you're supposed to do, like that's,
Yeah.
you do it, you get paid. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. So how many projects do you have going on right now in terms of flipping houses? How many?
Oh, we got
Flips do you
several different going on. I mean, doing that kind of volume and moving that many properties, I mean, I would say in the double digits, probably in the teens.
Do you have like a warehouse where you store all the materials? It's like pretty much.
No, I try not to store anything because that's
Oh.
overhead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's why Home Depot
That's why
comes in.
Home
That's what Home
Depot
Depot-
stores it for you.
If I don't have to store it, I won't because it's just dead weight, right?
Yeah, I didn't. Okay.
And plus, you got to move the materials from the job site if they're there. So I always
Yeah.
just try to take everything back to Home Depot I can. If there's some like half-used stuff, if it's salvageable, drop it off at the next site.
Yeah.
That's where that pro account's nice too,
Yeah,
because you don't have to even have the receipt. It's all on there based on the job.
correct. And that sometimes gets a little tough when they're like, I can't find it in here. I'm like, well, it has to be in there.
Yeah, I know it's in there.
I was like, you can't tell me I didn't buy PEX lines sometime this
Yeah.
year. There has to be an order for PEX
Yeah,
lines.
right.
This cabinet, I bought like 30 of them. There has to be one. I
Yeah,
can
there's
return.
one.
I was gonna ask too. Is it the houses that you flip? They all have the same like kitchen.
Everything
like,
looks identical.
yeah, that makes it easy. Like uniform. It makes
Everything's
it
in
easy.
stock.
Mhm.
Everything's identical. It's,
Mhm.
easy peasy. Sometimes I'll do flips for other people,
Oh, you have time to do that?
Yeah, so that's some of them I'll sell as turnkey rentals for them and stuff. But I say, hey, listen, this is the model. You follow it, or I don't really want to do the work.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
On the interior stuff. So I try to make it streamlined so that's no matter which house my guy's at, he knows like this is what we're doing.
Mhm.
This is the model. And after a house or two, they really pick it up. It's pretty simple. I mean, literally like paint for example, right? Everyone uses a gray paint, but there's like 1,000 shades of gray.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right.
So I have literally a piece of paper that has every paint I'll use, and there's like, it says wall paint, trim paint, basement floor paint, basement wall paint, porch paint. And they can literally take it to Home Depot and they scan it.
Yeah.
And then you can't mess the paint up that way.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, nice.
just like a QR code kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you still have your first house you flipped?
I do not. I actually sold my Lakewood houses last year.
Oh.
2 years ago. Yeah, about a year ago. Yeah. So I thought we were at the top of the market. I think it's kept going a little bit, but
Yeah.
you gotta. I don't know.
When
sometime.
COVID shut down, oh, you were Ohio, so your governor didn't say you couldn't work, huh? On houses, because in PA, Wolf said that I couldn't show houses for 2 months, and we couldn't work. I couldn't work on my house for 2 months.
Wow.
It was
yeah,
illegal.
We did not experience that.
Oh, good for you.
I almost forgot that was the thing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I was like, what do you
Right.
mean you couldn't
That's
work?
why DeWine's gonna kill it in a couple of
Oh,
weeks.
yeah, I guess so. I haven't really followed too much what the race is doing or whatever.
Yeah.
Not a huge political.
Until
political
it affects me, I'm kind of like the same. It makes me
Yeah.
make me a bad citizen.
I mean, I vote, I read up on it, but like I'm not going to sit here and talk of any depth or
No.
knowledge
Yeah.
to you right now
Right.
to persuade you in any way, shape,
Yeah.
or form.
No.
As long as the economy keeps going, I think I want some lower interest rates, but
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
yeah.
that's kind of what I would be like focusing on in myself. But
Right.
obviously, you want to curb inflation. I get that, but I don't know if you want to send it into a full on recession with interest rates in the 7s, 8s, 9s.
Right.
You know, what point do you tail it back? Because hopefully everything's starting to level out.
I'm hoping. I heard it was supposed to go to the 10s by the end of the year.
I have no idea.
Do we? I
Do
mean,
we?
it's
Yeah.
just, it might just be a headline I read. It
Yeah,
could
I
just
mean-
be I just
Going,
made
it's
it
not
up.
really seeming like it's moving much.
Yeah.
Didn't the CPI come back a little lower than it was previous months?
When did that come out?
Like 2-3 days ago.
It might have because the market's gone through the roof the last 2 days.
Yeah, it's kind of. I
It's
think.
usually an indicator of,
Yeah,
of
level a little
inflation.
bit.
Yeah.
Not to the 2% or not to the 0.2% they want or whatever to keep the inflation at 2 per year or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was closer to that number.
Yeah.
I think it came out like 3 or 4, 0.3 or 0.4.
When prices spiked during the COVID era for materials, did you experience an issue with your ROI, or were you safe, or were you like whatever?
I was buying in stock materials, like basic.
So that wasn't affected then?
I mean, everything has went up,
Yeah.
but it wasn't like I feel like the higher end items took a bigger hit,
Yeah.
percentage wise.
Like more custom
And
items.
the price
you're
of the
saying.
properties were going up too, or the price of the
Yeah.
ARV.
Yeah, so the ARV was climbing
that's
just
true.
as much as the. That's a really good point. I didn't think about that because that. You're right. I was like, oh, this house worth 130. I'm like, just appraised at 150. That's awesome.
Yeah. Right.
You know, I mean, it's kind of the nature and kind of tinkling back down the other way now. You know.
Yeah.
Um.
So at what point though, like when you're looking at properties, first up, well, I guess it's 2 questions. How are you finding the deals?
Mhm.
And then secondly, when you're going in and you're walking through that property for the first time, I would assume that you're putting eyes on these properties every
Yeah.
time, or unless you're.
Most of the times, there's a few that I'll buy that my project manager has walked through. or
So
something.
somebody's laying eyes on it.
Yeah,
You
I've
won't
never
buy
bought
something
it sight on
blindfolded.
scene. Yeah.
Okay. So then what when you're walking through, okay, how do you determine whether or not, okay, I'm going to buy this or not?
Well, I made up a really simple like estimator sheet that you can.
Mm-hmm.
It's like large items. I'm not like walking through and counting the number of dome lights in the house.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Right.
I make my kitchen will cost a little more when I know I can do it for less, but that'll cover like the flooring in there. And I know my bath is going to cost a little less, but I make it a little more.
Mm-hmm.
And that way I can do large ticket items, and it kind of covers all those little like outlets and cover plates and just those little knickknacks that'll get you. Like you're not going to count the pieces of trim.
Right.
You would be there for ever.
Yeah.
Right? Hours on end. I'm sure you have something similar where you kind of estimate, hey, this is how much it's going to cost, and each of those items are buffered to cover extra things.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the way I've done it. And then I just want to make sure the rents are enough that I can sell it at an ARV that would make sense to sell.
Yeah.
Or if,
From the investor side.
yeah, or I
They're
can
gonna want it.
refinance it and keep it, or something of that nature. I want to make sure I'm not over the ARV. Try to stay in that 60 to 70%.
Okay. So then are you finding these properties in MLS, or are you
Oh,
finding
yeah. I guess I found some on the MLS. Once again, my idea of trying to treat everyone super nice. All the wholesalers in the area I try to befriend or, make a relationship with. Because if they know you can buy or you close, or at least someone that can close, like they'll, bring you the deals first.
Sure.
So they're not hunting around. I don't know if you wholesale. Is wholesaling a thing?
Yes, very
Okay.
much so.
All right, because I know some states it's frowned upon, outlawed.
It's kind of frowned upon, but
Yeah, I mean, I don't wholesale myself, but
depends on how you do it. If you're trying to avoid the double transfer tax, it's illegal and frowned upon. But some people do it.
I didn't know what the double transfer tax was.
So when you say I was wholesaling it, so if I had Michael's house for sale, making a commission and selling it to you, you're supposed to. I'm supposed to buy it, and then I'm supposed to sell it to you.
Like a double close.
Right. Some people don't do that.
Oh, you guys have to double close out here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, in Ohio, I don't think you have to double close.
I don't know. You guys have more lenient laws, I think.
You know, I'm
And
not
cheaper gas. That's what I think of.
I'm not up on the wholesaling laws.
Yeah.
Cheaper gas, though. I feel like you guys have Giant Eagles out here, right? So you should be using the
Fuel perks?
fuel perks all day and buying your Home Depot gift cards with your Amex card and then getting fuel perks.
Yeah.
I mean, right? Is that?
Yeah.
Listen, I do that. Yeah, I do that all the time.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Literally,
I've done it.
I buy Home Depot gift cards on there, and
Oh, stacks.
I
of
use
Home Depot gift
my
cards.
credit cards. I get flight miles.
Yeah.
Actually, to that point, not to change. So you do, so kind of maybe gravitating away from like the flips and into, I know that you have an Airbnb, right? So you do the short-term rentals and also like the buy and holds, right? What are your strategies for each of those moving forward? Like, do you think that the buy and holds and accumulating more units and doors, is that something that you?
Yeah, I mean, that's
looking
kind
into doing,
of what I'm looking to do is kind of add some more doors and kind of see what happens with, interest rates, just kind of keep them as my own rentals. And then, if I end up selling them, great. If not, if you can still cash flow, I like to stay between like $350 and $450 a door.
Mm-hmm.
That would make sense to keep in case
Yeah.
there's, a maintenance call.
Yeah, right.
I know some people will buy in the, the lower numbers of, $250 a door or something like that.
Don't get them started.
I mean, I get it if you're out in an area where you can't find those deals that'll cash flow you $350 to $450 a door.
Yeah.
You need to maybe change your strategy and take the $250 and take the equity play in it and let the tenant pay down the mortgage. So there's, that purpose there as well. So I mean, there's lots of different ways to look at it. I mean, even if you look at trajectory of rents and house values over the next 30 years, they're going to go up, right? I mean, since, I don't know, 1900s when people were renting stuff for $20 a month.
Right.
Yeah.
You think if you still had that house in your family now, what it would be worth.
Yeah, right.
Right.
You wouldn't be kicking yourself because you're only cash flowing $2 a month.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's true.
I mean, think about it. I mean, that's a valid point. I saw someone show a statistic like that the other day. Like the average mortgage was $17 a month, and the average rent was like 20 something a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the 1920s?
Yeah, it was some time frame. It was like in the beginning of the 1900s.
That's when taxes were like a 90% tax bracket. And
I don't know.
the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, that era.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm not a huge history buff.
Me either. I'm just going off on a tangent. It's just random things.
I was
Saw it on TikTok.
saw it on TikTok.
Peter would know. I mean, he's the history buff over here.
Metal history bands, actually.
Oh,
Metal.
yeah. So where is your Airbnb?
It's down in Myrtle Beach.
Oh, cool.
I don't really have a lot to say about it. I haven't really
It's
dove into it. Just real new. So
Okay, so I was wondering if it's more of like a hospitality business more than a real estate business. Do you use it just for personal?
yeah, gonna find out.
Oh, okay. So it's to be determined on episode 2 of this.
Yeah, I got nothing really. I got no input of any value.
Oh, really? So
Well,
like you,
how about how do you
Let's
view
be honest.
I
how
have
do you
no
view
value.
short-term rentals though?
I'm worried that at some point they'll change laws and things like that. But as I think
Like look at like municipalities or
but I think if you're in an area that is predominantly short term, you're okay. But in areas that aren't predominantly short term, where you're pushing out people that live there full time, I feel like that's when the local municipalities will go ahead and make a change.
mm-hmm.
yeah.
And I think I know you have one down in Florida you were talking about, right? I mean, I feel like they're kind of doing that.
It's strict.
Yeah.
I mean, it has been,
So I think that's probably the way of the future for most areas. Once I see a trend of pushing out local residents to where no one can buy a house and everything's an Airbnb,
Mm-hmm.
would be my take on that.
You said where everything is an Airbnb?
Yeah, so like if you go there and like no one can live there and buy a house, like eventually the municipality's gonna be like, well, we need like residents that stay
The
here.
owner
Yeah, that are going to
Yeah.
eat it.
Yeah.
Well, so
Stable.
like to that point, so down in like St. Pete, they have like minimum, like St. Pete Beach is like a 3-week minimum.
Yeah.
And then in Florida, that home rule, the legislation has been in the Florida chamber for years. You obviously have a side that says, well, we want the homeowners to be allowed to use their property for whatever the hell they want, right? So like that's the one side of it, but the other side of the argument is exactly what you said, because the moment that they would just do away with all of the ordinances and laws banning them or restricting them, they're going to do just that. They're going to have an influx of Airbnbs into the area, and it would quite frankly hurt people like me that has one of the few in the grand scheme of things. So I didn't actually think of it like that. Right. I've always thought of it like, well, you have these big hotels and beachfront hotels, all that sort of stuff. So like they're protecting these existing entities that have been there. But
I guess if you're a hotel, I mean, they'd probably grandfather hotels into a different category.
They do, but I was thinking of like just in terms of occupancy. They're taking a beating from these Airbnbs because these hotels, you're fitting 4 people in a room, of 6 people, and you have an Airbnb that could sleep 10 to 12, right? And they're getting double.
Yeah.
So
True.
Those hotels do take a hit, with that. So.
And I noticed I went down to St. Pete's. I was looking at houses. Yeah, or not houses, condos or whatever. The ones that were Airbnb friendly, the prices for those were dramatically higher.
Oh, yeah, they are.
The ones that were long term of a month plus, or midterm or whatever term you want to give it, they were there for 4+ weeks. The price drastically dropped.
Sure. There's usually a 35% discount on those, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I saw some that were like in the 200s.
Yeah.
But it was like they had like a 6-month minimum.
Yeah, right.
I was like, wow. And I'm like, you're right on the water right there. I was like, is there a way around this?
Yeah, right. Right.
Is there? Now I'm thinking of the way around it. I was thinking that in my head as you were saying that. Like, what is the way?
Yeah.
Just try it until you get caught?
Yeah, but that's a large investment to take on to
What's the fine?
roll the dice.
Someone did that. Well, in Treasure Island, I remember because I was so nervous to buy something down there because I kept seeing all these laws, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I almost didn't believe that because mine was a new build. I almost didn't believe the developer. I'm like, wait, there's something to this. Like, you can't. There's a minimum here, and you're now saying that I have a 3-night minimum, or 2 or 3-night minimum, and it's constructed against the ordinance. Because then I saw in Treasure Island, the one investor like years back, he bought a place. It was booked for like 6 months, and code just starts going and banging on his door like the tenants. He ended up having to cancel all his bookings, and they were fining him per day, like if he didn't, if it was still operating as a short-term rental. So he took a beating, and now he has this property that he had to find a long-term tenant for that the rent didn't warrant it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so those properties, they only oftentimes make sense on a short-term basis.
Yeah.
You're spending X, and you're only going to get, 3,000. Your overhead might be 4.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I think some of those lenders that were doing lending based on the Airbnb volume or dollars brought in, I think a lot of those properties got over leveraged pretty hard, and I think we kind of saw that around COVID when there wasn't as much traveling when it first started, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So I always wondered how those loans worked out, where they're based on the Airbnb value and not a ARV value.
Would it be like the non-QM loans?
Yeah, that's a good.
It's a non-qualified mortgage for sure.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's like verbiage in the legislation about the restrictions that say it has to be like the same continuous occupant for 6 months and not just continually occupied for 6 months.
It is like you're talking about how
I'm
those
looking for the
minimums are?
loophole.
Oh, well, yeah. Like in Miami, it's 6 months and a day.
But does it have to be the same person for 6 months and a day, or does
it's supposed to be? But there might be. Yeah.
I just solved everybody's problem.
You did. There you go.
Podcast is going to blow up.
It's going to blow.
I caused legislation to be written. The Anna law for the Airbnbs.
Oh man. Worldwide.
Yeah. Then I'd hate myself for doing that. For your buy and holds, how many units are you currently holding on to right now?
I think I have about 20 units. I have some multis and some single families and just a little mix. All 4 units and under in Akron area.
Do you intentionally look for buy and holds right now?
I will. It just depends on, you just evaluate the property and see like, all right, well this would be a great cash flowing one, but might not be right to flip or.
Yeah.
You know, it just kind of depends. It's more feelings. I feel like I don't have a concrete.
That's where I get like I've never flipped anything. Like I'll rehab it and I'll just burr it all day, right?
Sure.
So like, but at what point does it make sense not to do that in your head? Or is that kind of what you were saying? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think there has to be like, all right, you're like, if I can capture 10 years of rent in one clip on a sale.
but you could also take out 80% of the equity. You could also take out the percentage
You could.
and still get the rents.
Yeah, because I mean, I guess.
Obviously, you have a lot more. Your day-to-day is a lot different, right?
Right.
You know, because you're dealing with managing tenants at that point.
Right. So, I mean, there's, 1,000 things to say about it, but could you take that money you made and put it into, private lending, a syndication? And there's not just like real estate syndications. I mean, there's other like business syndications or business investing. You want to buy
Diversify it a little bit, yeah.
pet company or someone that flips cars or, whatever it might be. There's other ways to invest it too, not just. I know we're all stuck in the real estate world.
I know, yeah.
But I have buddies that invest in other things outside of that, and they clip off 15+% in interest.
Okay. Hopefully it wasn't Bitcoin, or they're taking a beat.
Yeah, my mind went to crypto.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he my one buddy I'm thinking of, he did one crypto one time. Didn't work out well for him. But he's pretty diversified into I think he's in like a car washes, ATM funds. ATM funds. Are really interesting.
So he bought the car wash, or he just
just
like
invested in it.
just invested. Okay,
so you get like a monthly return.
I love that. I love those.
So it's a totally different
Cash
mindset.
cows.
Yeah, I think the one that I always have trouble wrapping my head around was the ATM funds. So all the ATM fees that people get charged, he invested to like this company to buy more ATMs so that they could put more out there. And then he got paid back over like 7 years with so much interest. And then obviously you get 100% depreciation that first year, plus there's some bonus depreciations in there.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of a different mindset, a little more of a passive investor mindset. But that's stuff that interests me. I didn't jump in on that one because I just couldn't wrap my head. I guess I've never used an ATM. I don't make a regular basis using an ATM.
Right.
And paying a fee.
Right. I'm going to the surcharge-free ATM all day.
Well, my bank reimburses me, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
PNC
but they still pay the fee somewhere.
The PNC pays it.
Yeah, but someone's still collecting.
Yeah.
Right. So like
the fee.
from the investor perspective, that makes sense.
Put it in like cash-only businesses, like not here, but like in California, like in weed dispensaries, it's cash only. Put your ATM there, or nail salons.
Something.
Yeah.
A barbershop. Yeah, there's a lot of places that.
I'm thinking I should look into that.
Yeah, I was traveling out in San Diego and said, for your convenience only, we don't take cash. I always thought that was funny. Like for your convenience, we don't take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I rarely touch cash now.
Right, but I just thought it was a funny sign. I was like,
yeah, right.
It's not a convenience if you only have cash.
Yeah.
I guess it would negate. An ATM would be negated if you had Venmo and people took Venmo or Apple Pay or something, right?
Yeah. So I mean,
it might be antiquated.
Yeah.
I always wondered, like, if some people stopped taking cash out of the ATM, it was all. I feel like it's going more and more electronics. I was like, couldn't quite.
Forbush, put it outside Forbush.
Forbushes, yeah.
Cash only ice cream place.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't know.
Forbush.
Newcastle thing.
So a couple of things before we wrap up. So for one, obviously taking that step away from your day job, full-time job, has obviously freed you up to open up go down multiple different paths in terms of real estate. You opened up a roofing company, that sort of thing. To anybody that is kind of hesitant to take that first step, what do you have to say to that person? What's it done for your life?
Yeah, the first step's always the toughest, right? But you have to make sure that you're financially secure, and I'd always say having some rentals first, or having done some flips, working your main job and a second job, right? Like working that extra before you take that first step to make sure you like it. Like I've seen people flip houses and do one and be like, never again.
Mm-hmm.
So you can make sure you dabble in it enough before you totally just cut off the job.
Right.
Because you kind of become unlendable if you don't have the multiple years of experience doing it, if you're looking to do refis.
Sure.
You got to go to those low doc loans and pay a higher interest rate and stuff like that. So I'd say you got to dive in, but make sure you like it first. Dip your toe in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Don't just quit your job.
Just like, I'm out, full
Yeah.
dive. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta dip your toe and make sure you like it. If I never installed roofing materials and windows and siding before, how would I know that I want to do that business? You know what I'm saying? If I didn't have any experience doing it, actually,
Right.
that's why I think having that experience of actually doing it while doing something else gives you that little safety net.
For sure.
'Cause,
Absolutely.
you don't want to tell everyone just dive in.
Well, you were doing it for 10 years, right? Prior to actually.
Yeah, before it actually
hanging
came to the point where I was like, all right, we're doing this.
Yeah, right.
So, I guess I was dipping my whole ankle in. I was like holding on to the edge
Yeah.
still.
It's cool. Like real estate, it's an industry where you're able to do that. Still
Yeah.
have a job to keep you safe. I guess if your real estate investment goes haywire, but you could do it gradually and do it as intensely as you'd like, or as not intensely as you'd like.
Yeah, you kind of scale to what you put into it. And, people say you can't find deals, you can't find this. If you're looking hard enough and doing the right things, there's enough free content out there. You can find a house.
Oh,
Right.
totally.
You can find a house, whether it's from a wholesaler or you market yourself or whatever you might be doing. Even if you don't pay for the programs to send out your text blast, whatever, you can text off your own phone even.
Yeah.
You can cold call off your own phone, buying a list at 10
Yeah.
cents a lead.
Yeah.
You would just have to put in that time of calling people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've cold called, back when I needed a deal or two. You could cold call yourself, and find that one deal you were.
Everyone wants the instant gratification.
I was just gonna say
Yeah.
it's our culture today. It's very
Oh, yeah.
instant gratifying. Impatience.
Yeah, there's no instant gratification in cold calling people.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
There's a lot of blank.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
Yeah.
You got to come off as a real person immediately.
Yeah, right.
They're listening for
Say something captivating.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
instantly got to be like, hey, that house right there, I have one right down the street, and I drove by the other day, and I looked up your number, and I was just interested if you were, thinking about buying or selling or anything like that, and just kind of having a conversation about that area.
Yeah.
Because if you're calling in your local market, I mean, you can at least have a conversation about something around that's specific to that area, just like you guys were talking about the ice cream place, right?
Mm-hmm.
You instantly know the person lives nearby.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that instantly, like, okay, this is a real person I'm talking to. It's not a telemarketer that's just like,
Oh, I like that.
hello, are you calling?
I have a preference to that as well. When I have wholesalers that try to sell me stuff, I ask them, did you walk the property? Do you know where this is? Do you understand the area?
Yeah.
And if they're like, what do you mean? You wouldn't want this at X price? I'm like, do you know that area? I was raised here.
You cut 5th Street right there. 6th Street is not the same as 4th. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's it was this guy trying to sell me a place on Main Street in Newcastle.
Oh.
You couldn't give that to me.
Yeah, right.
I was
I don't want anything to do with that.
So he just realized he wasted his time on multiple levels, but
Yeah, I always try to get a feel. I was like, I guess I should ask, have you walked your property? And of course they're gonna say yes. You see my photos. I was like, 10 people already sent me those same photos.
Yeah.
all right.
I was like, this is daisy chain. Are you at the beginning or the end of the chain?
Oh, yeah, everyone's getting a cut. So I have a selfish question.
Yeah.
How many so have you used multiple credit cards when doing the Home Depot thing? Which one gives you the best for travel?
Oh, I just use American. I just use one credit card.
So
Makes
the
life easy.
Amex, is that the best rewards when traveling, flight points and hotel stays?
I don't know the answer to that question.
You don't travel?
I travel, but I use it for other things. Points for this. I mean, I've given Amex cards, or not Amex cards, Visa gift cards to workers. Just,
Oh, okay.
Oh,
so I
okay.
kind of print off
Yeah,
rewards.
'cause you're getting a lot of points there. Or you have
Yeah.
that upside
It's a
of getting.
selfish question. I wanted
ton
to
of
know.
points.
I travel a lot, so
My one buddy gives me a hard time. He's like, "Man, you need to start doing this and multiple cards and catch this bonus and that bonus." I was like, one card, please. Everything's here.
One card. Yeah.
It's like I'm getting points. One card.
Yeah.
yeah. I know. I see those things TikTok. It melts my brain, but it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this credit card.
Oh, I feel like if you have the spend volume and you know enough about the credit cards and you're up on there's tons of websites for it.
yeah.
Sure.
Up on all, I'm sure you could make a ton more money than just having one card. But
Yeah.
the simplicity of it just makes it way easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Totally.
So lastly, you had mentioned, do you have anything you wanted to plug or anything like
Oh, yeah.
that?
If anyone is in Northeast Ohio looking to do roofing, siding, windows, renewestimate.com. You can pull up our website. If you have any houses in Akron or you're looking to buy a house in Akron, you can email me at steveyoak44@gmail.com. So it's STEVEYOAK 44@gmail.com. More than happy to walk you through any of my inventory, or if you have stuff you're selling, always looking to buy more. I guess that would be my 2 plugs for the.
There you go.
That's about
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. So thanks so much for taking time out of your
Thanks for
day.
having us,
Obviously,
for
you're a
sure.
very busy guy, and sharing your knowledge with us. But that was
Yeah, thanks
Cashed
for
In,
being here.
episode 27, sponsored by Universal Settlement Solutions.